I'm just going to welcome everyone and then get out of the way for the presentation by Rabbi Jacob Siegel. But I'm really thrilled to see everybody here for the Information Center about our new partnership, our new participation in this magnificent project of Chazon's, the Climate Leadership Coalition. I'll just say a few words about why Prizmah is involved with this and how grateful we are. So I just really want to just start by thanking Chazon for moving the Jewish community forward. Chazon used to be primarily about environmental education and farms and different things like that. And they have really, in just the last year or two, stepped into this space of educating and having all aspects of the Jewish community become aware of and start doing things about climate change. And they've hired a great team, including the two people who are on this call with us today. So I'm really grateful to them. By signing up for Chazon's coalition, which I hope you all will do, you are going to be signing up to take part in a collaborative that Prizmah is going to be help facilitating. And maybe you'll learn a little bit about this later on, and we'll be sending out messages about it. But basically, each school will undertake to make plans, whatever makes sense for you, separately, and then to come together and support and learn from each other. And climate change is often discussed in the language of threat. And it is a threat after all. But this collaborative, I believe, empowers schools to use a different language, a language of opportunity. And I'll just list some of the opportunities that I think this collaborative is going to give to schools. It will enable schools to give students the information, skills, and dispositions in this critical undertaking. It is an opportunity to overcome fear and helplessness by taking action, an opportunity to be part of a nationwide movement dedicated to working together, an opportunity to confront this existential crisis with knowledge, tools, and colleagues, to show students that Jewish tradition has wisdom to address climate change. And it's an opportunity for the school itself to become a community leader and to lead by example. In Breshit, Noah acted based on knowledge that God gave him about climate change. Other people at the time didn't follow his example. But thanks to Chazon, we have an opportunity to act like Noah and to take our communities with us into the ark. So I will want to again thank our partners at Chazon and welcome Rabbi Jacob Siegel, who's going to give us the presentation.
Thank you, Elliot, and thank you all. And that's quite an introduction. I guess we're Noah, bringing everybody into the ark. That's a tall responsibility. Anyway, I appreciate you all of your leadership in Prizmah and for the whole day school community. So also everything you said is great. I kind of feel like I don't need to give the presentation. I'll give just a little bit of color to what Elliot shared. I wanted to start with a question for all of you, which is what attracted you to be here today? What called you to be here, whether it was on the hopeful side or on the concerned side? So I invite you, I think we have time for folks to either put that into the chat, or if you'd prefer to go ahead and unmute yourself and just share a few words about, what brought you here, what caught your eye about this particular learning or this particular gathering.
I can start. I'm definitely on the concerned side. I'm Laura Reff. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at Bernard Zell on Chambit Day School in Chicago. And I'm actually part of our JYCM Kfutza here. And we are actually the only one in Chicago and I believe in the Midwest at the moment. So that's something that we are actively trying to broaden geographically. So yeah, and our faculty unfortunately couldn't be on this, so I'm representing the faculty here.
Thanks for sharing.
Hi, Audrey Sobel from Schechter of Greater Hartford. I'm also kind of here on behalf of the faculty who are all busy teaching, and I thought I'd do like a fact-finding mission and report back so that they can learn from this as well.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. And in the chat, Aaron put in want more information, want to understand what others are doing, getting informed. Great. Anybody else?
Can you repeat the speaking prompt? I got sidetracked by a school emergency email.
Yeah, for sure. The question, I just wanted to start with understanding what brings you here or what attracted you or called you to this session. And it could be on the hopeful or excited side. It could also be on the concerned side. Just trying to understand where people are at in the room. Beth, it looked like you had.
Yeah, my name is Beth Cohen. I'm the head of school at Friedel Jewish Academy in Omaha, Nebraska. And I would say that our school and our Jewish community in general, we're located on the campus of the JCC, is not doing everything that many people feel like we could or should be doing. And we would love to be leaders in the community for ways that that everybody can undertake a commitment to help in fighting climate change.
Hi, I'm Seth. I'm the vice principal at the Leo Beck Day School in Toronto, Canada. So I'm both incredibly worried and incredibly hopeful at the same time. We have some very enthusiastic students who really want to do what they can and need some guidance to do it and to channel their energy in a way that will help the school and the environment as much as possible. We're part of a pretty intensive program called CAP, the Climate Acceleration Action Project, I think is what it's called. It's Canada-wide. We're the only faith-based school in that group, but it's a three-year program where they help us come up with a sort of a model or a vision of what we want to be doing in our school and next steps. I'm here though because I think I want to see what other Jewish day schools are doing, and I think there's tremendous value in just talking about the environment with other schools whenever possible.
Fantastic. That's really great. And my colleague, Risa Allison Cooper, who's Chazon's Chief Climate Officer, I'll just flag for you two to be in touch about Toronto things because she's based in Toronto. So, and I also see that
a few times.
Yeah, okay, great. Never mind. It's not that large of it. It's a small world. Meryl, also great to see you from Portland Jewish Academy. I'm based 2 hours south of you in Eugene. So it's great to have you all here. So I'll share a presentation. I'll invite everybody to interrupt me as I'm going with questions or throw questions into the chat. This is hopefully meant to be really informative and tailored to your questions and your, so feel free to bring those questions. I'll share my screen right here. Okay. So I want to give an overview of what Elliot mentioned, the Jewish Climate Leadership Coalition. My goals for today in this presentation, and I'll start the presentation and I'll pass it on to Risa. But our goals are to talk about the why. Why should we be engaged as Jewish organizations in this work around climate change? How, talking about the coalition that has recently launched and how we are planning to support you as schools in doing this work in a sustainable way, and the what, the brass tacks of how do you register for the coalition, what's involved in signing up, things like that. So let's start with the why, which a lot of folks in this room, we don't need the why in the broader sense. We're all here, but I think it's helpful to frame this when we think about making the case to our Jewish institutions, which we all will need to do. Why should we as a Jewish institution and as a school be involved in climate action? So I'm just going to really quickly start us off with some common facts about the climate crisis, just so we all have this shared language. Climate change is, I'll also preface this by saying that these are from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and you can see their logo in the upper right-hand corner of this slide. This is the gathering of thousands of scientists, represents the best thinking of climate scientists from across the globe, and they publish reports once every 6 to 7 years. Their latest reports came out about a half a year ago, so in the summer and in the fall of 2022. And here's what they said. Climate change is human-induced. It's caused by primarily burning fossil fuels. It's already affecting every community or region on Earth. I've run these info sessions with a couple of other groups, including the Network of Jewish Human Service Agencies, and who work specifically with the most vulnerable populations. And I remember hearing incredible stories of, hurricanes in New Orleans and wildfires in California directly affecting the operations. Like the staff in New Orleans were just as homeless as the constituents they were serving during the hurricane. And also in, Virginia or the mid-Atlantic, where climate refugees were increasing at a rapid pace. So this is really affecting all of us wherever we are. And I'd be interested to hear from all of you how this might be affecting your particular region. Climate change is a threat multiplier. So if we're caring about building strong Jewish identities, and if we're caring about building strong Jewish continuity, we're thinking about engagement, all of the things that we might care about, or all the issues that we might be concerned about for the Jewish community, climate change exacerbates them. And those least responsible and those least able to cope with the impacts of climate change are being the hardest hit. This is an issue of justice. So reducing the Jewish community's greenhouse gas emissions alone is not going to save the planet, but it will be significant. And I want to give this snapshot. The Jewish community in North America, we represent roughly 2.4% of the North American population. So if you took a 2.4% slice of North America, that slice would be emitting more greenhouse gas emissions than 160 other countries across the world. So what we do is significant, and we're doing this, we're mobilizing the collective power and resources of the Jewish community alongside other faith communities. So now is really an exciting moment. And we have the technology, we have the tools, we have the knowledge necessary to take this action. So I want to just give 3 examples of work already happening within the Jewish community. The first here on the left-hand side, the solar array, is the Associated, the Baltimore Jewish Federation, which as of the summer is now powering the equivalent of 50% of their entire campus operations through solar. And they're planning to go 100%. In the center, Jewish Family Services in Vancouver just opened a new food hub that is 100% vegetarian kosher. There's a really interesting connection between food and our food choices and the climate. And the choice they made here for vegetarian was really intentional and with the environment in mind. And on the right, here's Congregation Kol Amath in California, which built a net zero energy and zero waste synagogue facility. Very impressive. So I want to echo what Elliot said about the why, not just from the moral perspective, but from the sort of the business case, if you will. Taking action not only can reduce our organization's cost, it can provide cost savings, it can also provide meaningful engagement opportunities for our community, for our students. Chazon has been a leader in, as Elliot noted, in Jewish environmental education for over 20 years. And we know from experience, and it's been confirmed by studies, that engaging in this work, and whether it's Jewish outdoor, food, farming, environmental education, climate, from a Jewish perspective, is a really powerful tool for engagement and learning. And particularly relevant to all of us on this call, climate change is an important issue to Jews of all ages, and 67% of Gen Z youth and also 71% of millennials see climate as a top priority. So our young people today feel more deeply than anybody else that if we fail to take significant action now, the world will be passing on to our children, and our grandchildren will be far more unstable for Jewish and human life than the world of today. So committing to climate action is a really powerful way to demonstrate to students that we are seeking to meet them and acknowledge these concerns. And then, as Elliot noted, there's the Jewish angle, and I'll throw in this quote, which I really like from Kohelet Rabbah, which is talking about sort of imagining the moment at the end of the 6 days of creation, when God walks the first human around the garden and says, "Be careful not to spoil or destroy my world. If you do, there's no one to repair it after you." We also have a whole resource library at Chazon of Jewish environmental texts that we would be delighted to share with you for you to use in curriculum. And I can talk more about that later. So that's all the why. The global climate crisis is a historic inflection point for our planet, our communities, our people. Jewish tradition compels us to respond. It's also a moment of opportunity. And we understand that for many organizations, the barrier to taking significant climate action is not the why, it's the how. Many of us are paralyzed by overwhelm or confusion, or maybe we're juggling a dozen different priorities and how do we fit this in? And we have budgets that we have to manage. And is there a way to accomplish this work without, ridiculous expenditures? And we're overwhelmed by all these questions. And that is why we formed the Jewish Climate Leadership Coalition. So the Jewish Climate Leadership Coalition is powered by Chazon. Here's our mission statement. Our mission is to lead a transformative movement, deeply weaving sustainability into the fabric of Jewish life in order to create a healthier, more sustainable, more equitable world for all. And the Jewish Climate Leadership Coalition is a group of Jewish community organizations who recognize the existential threat and moral urgency of the climate crisis and are committed to taking action. This is the largest communal effort the Jewish community has ever seen to mobilize a collective Jewish response to the climate crisis. And the coalition is bringing together Jewish organizations across North America, so day schools, but also JCCs and synagogues of all denominations, federations, social service agencies, foundations, rabbinical schools, etc., and supporting you to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to take climate action at an institutional level. We want to be leveraging the collective influence and resources of our organized Jewish community, and we want to be modeling scalable climate action that'll bring about this vision of a healthier, more sustainable, more equitable world for all. So a year ago, March of 2022, Chazon initiated the coalition's pilot phase, along with 20 major umbrella Jewish organizations who joined the coalition as founding partners, demonstrating really broad consensus that the Jewish community is ready and capable of taking collective climate action. So here are the founding partners. You can see our logos here, Prizmah down in the bottom left corner. We've been meeting every 6 weeks and will continue to do so in order to develop our own concrete climate action plans, which will be released at the end of this quarter, so in just a few weeks. And I'm really excited. Prizmah has done an amazing job working on their climate action plan. I'll leave it to Elliot to share more about that, but those will all be released publicly, or you can save it, Elliot, until the public release in March. And we also, Chazon has also been working on our climate action plan. It's, funny to think about. We're an environmental organization, but there's so much that we can do. We run 2 retreat centers, et cetera. So there's a lot of work in front of all of us. And the coalition launched publicly on September 15th. And at this point, Jewish organizations everywhere are invited to sign on. So let's talk about the tachlis details. What does it mean to join the coalition? Members of the coalition commit to the following. The organization's chief executive or your head of school or whoever is the appropriate person in that role signs the founding statement. The founding statement acknowledges the existential threats posed by climate change. It affirms that the signatories commit to action. All of those founding partners co-wrote and signed that founding statement. It involves designating a staff liaison to lead your climate action work. It could be whoever at the organization is most passionate or best positioned to think through and sort of bring in others into the conversation. A great leadership opportunity, leadership development opportunity. And organizations develop, implement, evaluate, and share an organizational climate action plan annually. Climate action plans detail climate actions you may have already taken to date or any sustainability conversations you've already had, and they set goals for reducing an organization's greenhouse gas emissions in the coming year. And there are no minimum requirements for a climate action plan. It really depends on what makes sense for your school and what you'll be able to do. This is meant to be a multi-year journey, so you don't have to do everything in year 1. I also want to highlight that there's no cost to join the coalition. The goal of all of us and the founding partners is to make meaningful climate action accessible to Jewish institutions. So we're seeking to reduce the barriers to entry as much as possible. Okay, I want to give just a snapshot of what climate action can look like in the coalition. There are really 2 areas of focus that we will be developing resources to support you on Chazon's side. One is getting your organization to 0 greenhouse gas emissions. And the other is engaging the broader community in climate action, what we're calling expanding impact. So here's some potential solutions in getting to zero emissions. And no one organization will do all of these, but these are all possibilities for you to explore and where we will have resources to support you. Sourcing clean electricity, that means either purchasing clean electricity from the grid, from your electricity provider, or creating your own with solar panels. Going electric, making a plan that documents any non-electric appliances, gas boilers or furnaces, et cetera, and when they'll expire or reach the end of their life, and planning now to replace them with an electric version. The more we electrify, the more we can then source clean electricity and run everything electric and really be off of fossil fuels. Reducing your emissions, that's things like energy efficiency retrofits, like energy efficient light bulbs in your building. It's also things like your food, like I mentioned earlier, your travel, your procurement practices, and if you have a campus with green space, managing natural resources to sequester carbon through nature-based solutions. And then there are some greenhouse gas emissions that, at least for now, are unavoidable, so you can purchase vetted greenhouse gas offsets, and we will have resources at Chazon to support you thinking through all of those. And we know that, oh, sorry, let me get through, there we go. So we know that just reducing our own institution's greenhouse gas emissions isn't going to get us where we need to be. So we've identified this second area of focus, which is expanding our impact beyond the walls of our institution and beyond just our operations to engage more broadly in climate action. So we bring a number of resources at Chazon, but we'll also refer you to partners in these areas. Education and nature connection. These are things like celebrations, learning moments that ground us in our connection with the earth and inspire collective action. So some examples of resources, there's the Jewish Youth Climate Movement, which is a program of Chazon that works to engage young people in climate organizing. It's a youth-led movement that really works alongside and complements other youth movements in the US and in Canada. There are immersive experiences like, for example, the Teva week-long day school overnight program at the Isabella Friedman Retreat Center in Connecticut, educational programs at the Pearlstone Retreat Center in Baltimore. Depending on where you're located across North America, there are also local and regional Jewish outdoor food farming and environmental education organizations that we would be delighted to connect you with so that your students can really get a hands-on feel for what it means to be connected to the earth. And like I mentioned, we have a robust curricular library here at Chazon that we are delighted to share with coalition members. Another important solution to consider is advocacy, advocating for climate smart federal policy, et cetera. So some examples of strategic partners we'll refer you to here with deep expertise. There's Dayenu, a national organization building a movement of American Jews confronting the climate crisis with spiritual audacity and bold political action. There's Jewish Earth Alliance, which is a grassroots network working to engage Jewish communities in policy work, and the Jewish Youth Climate Movement that I mentioned. And then the last area is finance. I actually had a conversation with one of our school members talking about finance and how the students at the school were very interested in this bucket, thinking about endowments and banking relationships based on their climate impacts. This has been a topic for a while on college campuses and is increasingly a topic at schools, at day schools. So partners we'll direct you to here include Dayenu and J-Lens, which is an organization that explores a Jewish lens on investing, serves as the bridge between the Jewish community and the values-based impact investing movement, and another organization called Faith Invest, which is a global network that empowers faith communities to invest in line with their beliefs and values. I see some things coming in the chat, and I am not able to see the chat with this presentation up. So feel free, either Risa or Elliot or whoever's got those questions, if you want to interrupt me in the middle, feel free. And let's talk about how we are going to support you. So here's the supports that Chazon is providing to coalition members. We want to forestall the feelings of overwhelm. We want to make this step-by-step achievable. We'll have climate action resource guides, templates, and webinars. We'll be providing staff support through one-on-one consultation and weekly staff office hours. Those have already started, and they've been really fruitful for organizations to show up with their unique questions or challenges or obstacles to taking action and workshop those together. Those have been really great. We will have financial support in the form of interest-free loans and hopefully also matching grants through a climate action fund that we are working diligently to fundraise for. We already have a pool of interest-free loans that we've raised, working hard now on the matching grants, and those will launch at the end of this quarter or beginning of next quarter. So we're excited about that opportunity. Coalition members can all apply, and projects will be vetted based on their impact on both whether their financial payoff and their impact on climate. And really importantly, networking and resource sharing through a day school collaborative. So here I want to turn the mic over to Risa to talk about this collaborative that we're really excited on Chazon's side to be running in collaboration with Prizmah, who's been a really fantastic partner.
Hey everybody, thanks Jacob. So my name is Risa. I am Chazon's Chief Climate Officer. So I have the blessing of working with Rabbi Jacob and the rest of our climate action team. And for the last many months, we've been working very, very hard, very collaboratively around visioning and launching the Jewish Climate Leadership Coalition. Before joining Chazon, I'll just say a quick word about my background. For the last 13 years, I was the founding executive director of Shoresh, which is a Toronto-based Jewish environmental nonprofit focused around Jewish outdoor education. So I've had the blessing in that capacity of working with many of the Toronto-based Jewish day schools. Hi, Seth, Leo Beck. And so I'm particularly excited about thinking about climate action work within a day school context. My role, in addition to being the Chief Climate Officer, is that I'm also going to be the staff liaison for the Day School Collaborative. So working really closely with Elliot, the two of us will be facilitating together the collaborative for the day school members of the coalition. So I'll just say a couple words about the collaborative and the goals of that space, that resource for coalition members. The collaborative is going to meet quarterly. And it will really be an opportunity for the day schools that are participating in the Jewish Climate Leadership Coalition to come together and to share best practices with one another, to share the successes that each of your organizations have experienced in your climate action work, to troubleshoot some of the challenges that you are facing, whether it be how to achieve net zero emissions for your facilities, whether it's around how to better engage the students that you're working with, your staff, thinking about educational programming and how to integrate this work into your curriculum. So the collaborative will be a space to engage in all of those questions and sharings with one another. And the other thing that we'll really use the collaborative for is all of the resources that Jacob just listed, the learning sessions that we'll be offering, the office hours, those are all being offered to all coalition members. And what we'll do in the context of the collaborative is think about how do we apply those resources specifically in a day school context. And are there pieces beyond what we're offering on a national level that are going to be of greater interest to the day school community. So for example, Laura, I believe you mentioned that you have a JYCM Kutza, the Jewish Youth Climate Movement. And so if there is interest, we can bring in Liana Rothman, the JYCM director, who can speak to what it is to build out a Kutza, a group that will engage youth and teens around climate action through the day schools. So that's an example of something that we can bring specifically to the collaborative that we might not be doing as in depth on the broader national coalition level. And maybe Elliot, I'll tag you now to say a little bit more about the logistics, the tachlis of how the collaborative will operate.
Terrific. Thank you. Great presentation, Jacob and Risa. So I would say, first of all, we have schools already signed up. We have about 10 schools already on board, and it's growing, and we're hoping, it keeps growing over the years to come. We're going to have a session in March where we get to know each other, where we'll be presenting a wide range of options of possible steps you can take in your initial plan. Then we'll give everyone a couple of months, and then in May we'll meet again and discuss amongst each other the plans that we've come up with, and work on them and get feedback. And then the idea is that starting in September, or some of you August, and the next school year, you will start to implement that plan, and we'll be meeting during the year to track progress, to encourage each other, to get new ideas, and celebrate what we're accomplishing. So that's where we are. There were a number of schools that said they wanted to be here and couldn't, and we're going to be sharing this recording with the field, and there are going to be even more schools coming. So it's going to be a really great group of schools, a robust conversation, and really looking forward for us all to work together, everyone who signs up. Thanks. I'll hand it back to Risa now.
I'm actually going to pass it back to Jacob.
Okay, I'll just wrap up with a really quick, I'll just share one more slide, which is next steps. So timeline today is this info session. You can register at any point for the coalition on Chazon's website, chazon.org/coalition. It's a pretty quick form, just filled out by your head of school or chief executive or whoever that might be. And then your organization will be invited to attend a welcome session. We're trying to really, make this really straightforward and easy with next steps at each point. So the step after joining, attending a welcome session, that'll orient you to all these resources that I ran through very quickly so that you have a little bit more orientation of how do I access all these things. There will be learning sessions and webinars ongoing throughout the year. Those have already started as of mid-January. And then the collaborative, like Elliot noted, is launching next month. All of us founding partners are going to be releasing our climate action plans later this quarter, and then all new organizations that have joined climate action plans will be due a year from now, so Tu B'Shvat 2024. And we really wanted to give all that time. If you're done sooner and you want to start implementing, that's fantastic, but we have time to learn and to grow together. So I'll pause there. I think that's basically the end of the presentation part, and I think we'd love to hear questions. I see some have come in the chat, but yeah.
I have a question. Who would you recommend from the school side? Like, where would this live? It's hard to tell if it's like operations or if it's more on the faculty side. Is it a partnership between the two? Curious where you see that living on the school side.
Sorry, I got distracted by one person who couldn't access the document that I shared. That's my mistake. I'll try to share a better link. Can you say that question one more time?
Yeah, I'm just curious who you see this living with on the school side. Like, is it an operations function or?
I could jump in. I think it all depends on what you decide to undertake, right? Because each school is given wide berth to choose the path that they're going to take on, at least initially. So if your school decides it's primarily going to live in the educational space, then you have educators. I know there's some STEM or STEAM educators that are going to be the representatives, could live in a Judaics faculty who's really passionate about this, or it could certainly, and we encourage it could live in operations. It could live in the board, a board member who's passionate about it. It's really the sky's the limit.
I agree with that answer.
I have a question, and I'm curious about, was it Beth, you said that you live in the Jewish Community Center there, so we live in the Jewish Community Center here too, and not that we're not collaborators, we are, but I'm curious about whether, I know the answer to this question, right? That it would be optimal if we had somebody from both the JCC and PJA to be involved in this. And what if we don't?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, we spoke recently with Portland Federation, who is now also a member of the coalition. It's a similar story because they also, I think you all have a shared space, or maybe you're not, never mind, they're not in the same complex as you, but they also don't own their own building. So there are a number of organizations that don't own their own facilities or rent space in the coalition. So the idea, we tried to design the coalition to be accessible across the board. So, if some of those pieces are less relevant to you, like the getting to zero or the, changing things over to electric doesn't apply to you, that's totally fine. And it's interesting to think about where your organization's primary impact is in general. That's probably where your primary climate impact will be also. So if your primary impact is in the education bucket, then probably a significant impact that you can have on climate is to start there. That's just a possibility, kind of like what Elliot was saying before. But so certainly, if you are, if you're able to do advocacy with your quote unquote landlord, that's not really, but with your partner, that's fantastic. If you want to encourage them to sign up for the coalition, that's fantastic. We'd love to have them. There is a JCC's cohort also, and it makes sense for each organization to start wherever you think your lowest hanging fruit and your biggest impact as an organization can be.
Great. Yeah. I mean, our students, we do also have a group of students who are in the Jewish Youth Climate Group, and that's great. And we certainly are, I mean, we're in Portland, so there's a lot of work being done, but the Jewish community itself is not doing as much as we could, and the school is not doing as much as we should. So thanks.
Jacob, is there a place that we could look for who the connecting points are for the JCCs and for federations, so we can get our communities people in touch with their liaisons?
You mean on
like our JCC and our federation, we're located on one campus together that's owned by the federation.
Yeah.
But if the JCC and the federation locally could be connected to their coalition partner, their liaison.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So we've been working with the JCC Association, and I can name the folks who are the people who are our point staff people there who would be delighted to connect with the JCC. And then same thing with JFNA. We have point people at JFNA who are really working with the communities of practice of Federation. If you want to reach out to me afterward, and we can put everybody in touch. And if they have, if they're interested in joining, but they have questions or concerns, we can also either the point people or I can answer those, and we could sort of all try to move it forward together. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, for me, certainly but I know that there are many day schools that heads of school that I work are in the same position, that they might see something like this and think, oh, I don't own my building, so I can't be part of this. So like, yes, you can be part of it and do the educational side. And by the way, here's how you can engage the rest of your community through their partner organizations.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess I'll jump in. Hi. Thanks for, I had to come from a class, so sorry to arrive late, but I want to ask, at our school, I'm at Barrack Hebrew Academy in the Philadelphia area. And one of the things that we often talk about is regards whether the recycling efforts, whether it's, some people who collect plastic bags or the plastics recycling, all that actually is effective, or whether, kind of what's the state of recycling? Is it all just going to be burned in unfortunate communities that get stuck with these plants? And I'm wondering, is there educational work that Chazon can do to help us as we form this coalition that can help us respond to some of those questions or help answer them?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have a lot of fun on our team with some of these questions. And honestly, Elliot might know much more about this particular question than I do, I think. So there's two answers. One is the answer to your actual question, which I'm gonna strategically not answer, because the other is the goal of sort of redirecting. Recycling is really important. Whatever we can do is really important. And that it's recycling itself is maybe one of the, I hesitate to say this on this call, is maybe one of the smaller actions we could take when we think about our collective power, our collective, if we could mobilize all of us as a collective and as an institution, and all the different impacts that we could have. So I would encourage, there's the piece of encouraging you to not get bogged down, or not let the debate derail you from taking whatever action you can. If recycling is not the right fit, that's all. That's actually legitimate, and there are plenty of other entry points. I'll pause there. Maybe Risa or Elliot want to add anything.
Just what Jacob said. It's recycling is important. I think it's important for getting people just kind of used to feeling like they can take some action that does have an impact. It doesn't have the hugest impact on climate, but it certainly has an important environmental impact. But it won't be one of the primary means to get to drawing down from climate, releasing climate gases, and probably won't be one of the main focuses of this group, but it doesn't mean it's not important and valuable for sure.
Just one other thought, another way to sidestep the debate is thinking about the reduce, recycle, reuse. So thinking about reducing and reusing can help minimize the amount we have to get into the difficult questions about how effective is recycling actually.
Thanks. And then also I put into the chat just a question about the funding. And I was kind of intrigued by looking for what I wrote, just trying to grab the chat again. I was intrigued by what you're talking about, the possible institutional grants, and just are there, is this something that is going to be developing and we'll get more information about, or in principle, is there money to support different kinds of just like on the ground efforts? And also, since I see how backlit I am, I'm going to flip on the lights in my office.
This is a great question. So we will definitely be sharing more information about the Climate Action Fund to coalition members as it gets rolled out. Like I mentioned, it's not quite there yet. We're hoping to really get there by like next quarter. So we'll definitely share more out for those opportunities. They're going to be focused on things that directly reduce or impact greenhouse gas emissions. So as important as the other things you're mentioning are, like student activities, whatever it is, going to a lobby day at the Capitol or things like that, those are important potential actions. And those are not going to be the type of things that'll be funded through the Climate Action Loan Fund or Grant Fund probably. That'll probably be more focused on things like light bulb retrofits or solar panels or things like that.
That's good too. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
These are great questions. Thank you all for these questions. We have time for a little bit more.
Okay, great. Any more questions before we wrap up? Okay, so in terms of next steps, we're going to be sending out a follow-up email to everyone who was on this call with a recording. If there are people you want to share this information with, we encourage you to do that. And also a link. You can just go on Chazon's website to find the Jewish Climate Leadership Coalition page, and you can sign up right there. It's very easy, but we'll also be sending that link as well. We'll be sending information for more schools to share this video and to sign up, and then we'll let people know exactly when we're going to be, the collaborative is going to be starting to meet in March. So I want to really thank you all for coming. We're really grateful again to our Chazon partners and looking forward to undertaking this work together. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.